It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hey friends, this is Andy. I want you to meet Dario Priolo. He's the CMO and demand generation practice leader at Sales Performance International.
We sell high-value solutions with a long sales cycle, and there are many influencers involved.
His team wanted to drive more revenue from their target accounts, but they needed a breakthrough.
Well, we really had to look at dozens and dozens of providers. And when we did that, when we did our research, we ultimately decided that Engagio was right for us.
Engagio's account-based marketing and sales platform enables teams to measure account engagement and orchestrate human connections at scale.
Opportunities in our target accounts are up 25%, and pipeline is up 30%. It's made them a lot more productive. They really now have a platform that allows multi-channel, multiplayer outreach to manage these complex relations in very large accounts. Marketing now has outstanding visibility into the most engaged accounts, and they really know where to focus their efforts much better.
Head over to engagio.com/accelerate to download their clear and complete guide to account-based sales development today. That's engagio.com/accelerate. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. I am excited to be joined by my guest today. Joining me on the show is Tracy Eiler. She's the Chief Marketing Officer at InsideView and co-author of a new book with her colleague, Andrea Austin, titled Aligned to Achieve. There it is, Aligned to Achieve. Excellent. Good use of the visuals, Tracy. I love it.
Sure.
So, welcome to Accelerate.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm excited to talk about this. It's a great topic.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about sales marketing alignment. So, which Aligned to Achieve, obviously, is this topic of that book. So, take a minute, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us what you do.
Sure. I am a lifelong B2B technology marketer. My roots are in branding and demand. I've worked for big companies, small companies, all here in Silicon Valley. I'm originally from the Midwest. Go Blue.
Although you're Michigan.
Big loss on Saturday was a little bit tragic, but we're coming back.
I have to admit, I was rooting for them on Saturday. That was a good game.
Yeah, it was a good game. A little tragic. And I'm a very sales-focused marketer. Always have been. It goes back to people that were in my life when I was very young, teenager. I knew a lot of sales executives. And then I've always been somebody in marketing that really felt like it was my job to help my sales guys make their number and make sales easier. And that just got ingrained in my head from a very early age.
So you've written this book about sales marketing alignment or marketing and sales alignment. I guess that's funny. I often ask, does a VP of sales talk about sales marketing alignment? A VP of marketing talk about marketing sales alignment? But anyway.
I put sales first, honestly, because they have an ego and they need to have that ego in order to sell those deals, right?
Marketing has no ego?
Marketing has an ego, but I don't have the number, right? I don't have the multi-million-dollar quota or the ego used to close it. So I feel like we can say it's first, even though alphabetically it's not correct.
All right. So what was the impetus for writing the book? I mean, you guys both veterans of Silicon Valley, multiple companies. Yeah. What was it that sort of said, gosh, we need to write about this?
The impetus for it was a real business reason and an emotional reason at the same time, which was sort of the perfect convergence. Mm-hmm. The emotional reason was both my co-author, Andrea Austin, and I, who's been on your show, were really sick and tired of fighting with our counterparts and had experience over decades of, walking out of a room from a meeting with our counterpart, rolling our eyes, saying, that's never going to happen, or never feeling like we are on the same page, or in some instances, working for a CEO who felt that it would be very beneficial for us to have, quote, healthy tension, which is sort of, the nice way of saying, I want you guys to fight all the time because then we're going to have survival of the fittest and, we're going to end up with a good result. So we both had that experience. And then when we started working together, we really realized that we were of the same mind. Like, this is baloney. It's time to fix this. And we just really, really had a lot of charisma with each other at the very beginning, trusted each other, spent time together, spent time really understanding each other's disciplines. And then in addition to that, so we start seeing early results just in our own working relationship. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, this is a lot different than other companies I've worked for before. I'm not going home feeling sick to my stomach on Friday night. about the interaction that I had with my sales counterpart. In addition to that, in our customer base, we sell to sales and marketing. And most of the time when we go to talk to a customer, we have an inroad in one of those two departments. Mm-hmm. And we ask whoever our champion is in that department, hey, can you introduce us to your counterparts? And we get a lot of hand waving like, oh, I don't know what those people do. I don't trust them. It wouldn't be, there's no bother. I don't know what they do all day. They're a bunch of bullies, whatever, right. You can imagine. And we thought, well, that's ridiculous. How are we ever going to make any money if we can't get sales and marketing in a room together, right? So that's the business reason. So we started doing some research that ended up in the book. And we spoke to more than 50 people like us, asking them what they were doing right. The survey that I mentioned, we had more than 1,000 respondents, asking them, is this still a problem? If so, why? What are you doing about it? How much is it costing you? And so on. And started talking about it in the industry. And every time we did, we were swarmed with people saying, oh my God, this is such a pain in the butt. I really want to work on it. So it was really two reasons. There was an emotional reason that was really career-based, and me with Andrea, us finding kind of common ground, like, wow, we really think we can do something about this. And then there was a practical business reason in our own selling and marketing at InsideView, where we wanted to bring those groups together. And we found this topic to be a really great forcing function to get the right people in the room together.
And are you seeing that the ground is sort of shifting a little bit as you see greater adoption of sort of the account-based everything, account-based sales, account-based marketing coming into fore? Because it seems like alignment is absolutely essential if you're going to implement an ABE strategy.
It's a great point. ABM, account-based anything, is a great forcing function for alignment. You got to pick the right accounts and then figure out the motions against those accounts and the right measures for them. That's an excellent forcing function. I think it's helping to accelerate alignment. There's a lot of other things, if you're not an ABM-focused company, just basic things about your people and your process and your technology that you can do to force alignment. But ABM is a great start if you have problems today.
Yeah, so that really extends to the fact that really customers are forcing it to some degree, correct?
I think that's right. I think customers are expecting to be treated, especially in our subscription economy, where you can buy almost anything from lawn service to software, on a monthly basis and on a recurring basis. And so us marketing and selling, we have to earn that business again and again and again. That customer wants to be treated with one voice in one way. And it really behooves us to keep that customer happy. And the best way to do that is with that united voice and with an extremely aligned organization, not just sales and marketing, but customer success all the way to finance and so on.
Right. So in the book, you quote from a Serious Decisions report saying that there's 19% faster revenue growth if marketing and sales are aligned.
Yeah.
So any idea how they came up with that that figure?
Yeah, we talked to Sirius, and they do a variety of benchmarks every year. They ask all sorts of questions, and that was a correlation that they found, that companies that reported tight alignment between sales and marketing along a number of measures. And they asked basic questions, everything from, do you work on lead scoring together? Do you work on lead routing together? Like nitty gritty alignment kind of things, like we were talking before the formal interview started about how some of these things that make alignment work, there's nothing pretty about it. It's very sausage making. It's very into the systems. But, when you get it right, it really works. So Sirius looks at all sorts of different behaviors or processes that a company might have in place. And then it looks at their revenue performance and other measures like retention and profit and so on.
Sure. Yeah, it'd be worth it if it was just 1% improved revenue growth.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So one of the things, the biggest benefits you talk about that alignment has is it eliminates friction in your processes. Give an example of what you mean by that.
Well, there's process friction and there's people friction. Let's talk about process first because It's less emotional. Imagine process friction that happens when the data that is sitting in your marketing automation system, your lead data that marketing is looking off of, and your CRM data with all the customer and prospect data that sales is working off of. Imagine if that is not talking to each other. Imagine if it doesn't match for whatever reason. And a lot of times it doesn't match.
Right.
And imagine a very simple scenario where you might have a Salesforce where you route leads based on company size. Let's just say 400 is the cutoff of employee size before it goes to your enterprise team versus your small business team. Well, if your lead database isn't matched to what's over here in your CRM database, those leads are going to get routed incorrectly. And we all know if a lead gets routed incorrectly to a salesperson and they look at it and they go, this one's not for me, they're not going to take the time to politely put it back in the system and reroute it correctly. They're going to go, they're going to throw it over their shoulder.
Well, they may do that even if it's a good lead.
Well, they might, right? If they don't how it looks, they might not pay attention to it.
Sure. So
that's a great example of friction, right? And when you start inspecting your systems and your processes, you're going to find all kinds of things like that. And you can fix them, but they need to be constantly monitored because they're going to get unfixed very quickly all the time.
Right.
So that is a great example. Another great example is just lead scoring, right? There can be lots of friction around lead scoring. Sales will say, these leads stink. Marketing will say, these leads are fine. There's arguments ensue. And lo and behold, like one of the very first things that Andrea and I worked on when we first came here was she had no idea what our lead scoring model looked like. And she'd asked, but marketing predecessors basically just, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We know what we're doing. Right? Yeah. So we just open up the kimono and look at how the leads are scored. And it's like, oh, okay, well, these measures make sense, but these measures don't. And it's not something you can set or forget either. So that's a good example. On the people side, there's all kinds of friction, right? You get that expectation friction. And, just because the two leaders get along doesn't mean that the people the next level down get along. And I can tell you in my own team, the individual marketing folks that are running campaigns or operations or events, they see Andrea coming down the hall and they're like, oh God, here comes the sales VP. She's scary, right? And she should be scary because she's got a good big number on her head and a big team that is responsible for a lot of money. So simply removing the barriers of intimidation, getting together regularly to talk about nitty gritty things. One of the things we recommend in the book, it's a corny word, but we have a meeting we call smarketing.
Right.
And it's a regular meeting. It happens every 2 weeks. And I run it, but it happens to be a roll up your sleeves, very specific working session meeting where we take a 6-week rolling window and we look at what just happened in terms of marketing campaigns and how did we do and how's the follow-up going on all of that.
Sure.
We look at what's happening right this minute and then we look at what's coming. I really love it because it helps marketing keep sales accountable, which is something it's always been hard to do. Like, did you guys finish your cadence on all that follow-up? How was it? Did you get any appointments? Did you get any ops, et cetera? We also use it to collect ideas from the field because lots of times there's great ideas. I have what I call a good ideas folder. And, marketing is always getting asked to do lots of different things. And everyone in the world's a marketer and has tons of ideas. Well, the way around arguing with somebody as to whether something's feasible or not is to say, you know what, that's a great idea for consideration. Let's put that in our good ideas folder. We'll open it up again and, maybe take it up this next quarter when we have capacity to come up with something new. And, we had a really fun one that came out of that, which is we decided to play around with a slogan called data is not a one-night stand. And the idea there is, at one level, you could call InsideView a data company, that we will sell you data on your, customers and prospects and the accounts and the names in them and so on. But we're not going to just sell you a bunch of data and run away and leave you and not make you successuser, hence the one-night stand analogy. So that idea came out of sales. Marketing took it and turned it into an ABM campaign prior to a big user conference for Marketo in this particular case. It was being held in Las Vegas. So we made little one-night stand kits that essentially had everything you'd ever need if you found yourself in the situation of having one-night stand, right? Everything from a little bottle of Jack Daniels to toothbrush and aspirin and other things. It was quasi-hangover kit plus a few other items. And we sent those out to 100 key accounts. The sales reps called. We made appointments with those accounts while we were there. Everybody thought it was really funny and cool. 5% of the people thought it was offensive, which is perfect, right? You want to have just a little bit of...
Did you have condoms in that kit?
We did.
Okay.
We did.
Plan B pill?
We did. No, we did put condoms in. That was my idea. I was like, this is weird if we don't have a condom. And that got a couple of people going, what are you guys doing? It's like, it's Vegas, guys. Come on, it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
But the point is that meeting allows us to collaborate with our sales team and make big ideas better, hold each other accountable, and so on. And it also removes the emotion out of that next level down, individual sales rep, individual marketing manager, not feeling so afraid and intimidated about, marketing, always feeling like, what have you done for me lately with sales, and sales not really understanding marketing's black box.
Right. Was there a sort of a counterpart meeting for sales that's a little more sales oriented that marketing attends?
So they have their what they call revenue sync, which is essentially a forecast meeting.
Right.
Happens every week. And I go to that as well as a couple of my leaders. Mm-hmm. And, we go mainly to listen, right? And periodically I'll pull in an individual contributor in marketing because I want them to understand what that pressure feels like.
Right.
Without them not understanding that pressure, gives them a new appreciation for what marketing's doing and not doing. And then another thing we do is just this morning, in fact, we have a weekly leadership meeting, which is all director level and above in the company. The CEO runs it. It's about 15 people in it. And today, my team presented a what works analysis. So we went back to our 25% of our biggest deals from the last year and saw what made them happen, did an analysis on what made them happen. So how many touches from marketing, what kind of touches from marketing. And we found really interesting things. For instance, there were an average of 34 engaged individuals per account. And these are 6-figure deals. Those 34 individuals.
34 on the customer side?
On the customer side.
34 per account.
Yes. 34 on average. Some were higher, some were lower, but on average, there were 34 engaged individuals in an account that was a 6-figure deal that we closed this year and representing 3 or more functions: marketing, sales, ops, IT, and so on. So that alone was a really interesting insight, right? Because our sales guys have a perception that they are only engaging with the buyer or the decision maker, when in fact we know, right, that buyer and decision maker has a bunch of underlings that are doing research and so on.
Well, CEB up to their number to 6.8 people per deal, but you're saying 34 were engaged.
34 in our case, yeah.
Wow.
And that was engaged in all sorts of things: webinar content, website visits, trials, kind of you name it.
Which speaks to the value of account-based marketing.
Absolutely. And, and I made the case in that meeting that, guys, we need more attention on our account build out.
Right.
Because we have, pretty good database, but we know that we are weak in certain personas. We need to make this a company priority. So, that was another example of, where we share information.
That's an astonishing figure. So let me ask a question. So how would a company know that they aren't aligned? I mean, this is because I suspect, like a lot of things out there, that people's perceptions are that, oh yeah, we're aligned. VPs, CEOs, VPs, sales, marketing. Oh yeah, we get along. We get along fine. Everything's great. And it's sort of like lead follow up, right? Everybody says, oh yeah, get a lead, we follow it up. But we know that most leads don't get followed up. So how do they know what are the symptoms? How do they know they aren't aligned?
Well, so I'll give you one example. There's a test in the book that we came up with some input from Meg Hewer at Serious Decisions. That is a test for marketers to take to measure whether their sellers trust them. Okay. So, right. And you made me think of it because, to my face, my sales exec may say, yeah, everything's cool, right?
Yeah.
And then go off and they whisper in the CEO's ear and they say, marketing's out of touch.
Marketing sucks,
very, very common, a common occurrence. And it's also a common occurrence for the CMO to go to the CEO and say, sales doesn't appreciate anything that we do. They don't follow up on the leads, blah, 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 right? We talk about each other behind each other's back. So if you think about...
But not you and Andrea.
Well, actually, no, we actually don't. We actually collude. It's actually really great. Like, we will talk about things we want. Right. And if sales and marketing band together and come forward to the CEO or CFO, I cannot think of one example, Andy, where they told us no.
Right.
Like, we wanted something funded, or we wanted, a headcount move from here to there, whatever. But anyway, this particular test that I'm talking about that's in the book, it's very simple. It asks 5 or 6 questions, and it says things like, okay, marketer, has your seller shared their account plans with you? Have they introduced you to a customer and taken you on a call? Mm-hmm. Have they followed up with your leads, even if to tell you that they stink? Have they reviewed any of your plans and given useful feedback or just lip service? Right. Things like that. And when you really think about it, like, wow, have I ever seen an account plan? How many customers have I met?
Yeah.
Has the salesperson ever asked me to come on a call with them or help them prepare? Those are pretty good tests, and those are going to tell you, are we aligned or not aligned? And trust is at the center of every relationship, of course.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking back to my own experience. I mean, there's been I would say some companies where the answer would have been yes, but other companies where the answer was definitely no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, easy to be. I mean, to that point, though, I mean, you make the point in the book, both directly and indirectly, that this misalignment is a problem that's getting worse. I mean,
I think it is.
Despite all the attention that's being paid to it, companies aren't taking the steps to sort of make it better.
I think technology has really gotten in our way. If you just think about the great Scott Brinker and all the research he has done on, the MarTech stack and how much bigger it is and so on, and all these different vendors make promises, and our stacks have gotten so messy. And when I came into InsideView 2 years ago, I started looking at what was in ours. It's like, what is all this stuff? And yes, you can argue that each piece of technology adds some value of some sort. But when I got a renewal bill for $33,000 for something on our website that turned buttons a different color if the visitor was taking too long, I'm like, wow, okay. I don't think I need to spend $33K on that.
Right.
How about I take that money and put it towards a sales effectiveness tool, which we did.
Right.
Because our sellers couldn't find anything. And, we were doing the normal thing that companies do, like, put all the sales content, whether it be competitive information or battle cards or sales decks or collateral. We had it in Box, we had it in Chatter and Salesforce and so on. But our sales guys still couldn't find anything. And when you spot check it, they'd be using something that was, 18 months old.
Sure.
So we decided to invest in a sales enablement content portal where everything goes. And now they're always using the right thing. We can monitor it. We actually have data, believe it or not, on what is being used and what's not.
Which one did you use?
We picked HighSpot, which we really liked. We looked at a variety of products. And, there's a lot of great tools out there. This one happened to be the one that fit the best, and they had a great customer success onboarding program. And we've got very high adoption with our sellers now. And they really like it because they can also use it not only to find what they need, but they can use it to pitch their prospect and then get analytics about what that prospect's doing.
Right. Very important.
So that's an example of, where you got to examine all that garbage that's in your tech stack where you may be spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, there's some things you can just frankly turn off. They might have been a good idea at one point in time, but then you can turn on something new that's going to add a lot of impact.
Yeah, I mean, sales stacks have the same problem these days.
They do.
Yeah, I mean, lots of tools that are being invested in and very few that are being used.
Very true.
So let's spend a few minutes just talking about how you begin to implement. You talked about your marketing meeting, but let's talk about how you begin to implement this alignment. Because I've talked to various guests on the show where they talk about the processes they have with their meetings, similar type meetings, and so on. But you guys make a point in the book, which I think is really valuable, is this really has to start at the top.
It does. I really think it has to start at the top. And if it's not going to be your CEO, then it has to be you. And you have to find your top sales leader or someone on their team, and you got to get started somewhere. And, I would say probably half the companies I've worked in had the Darwinian CEO who wants me to fight. And, and that's pretty awful. And so in that particular case, I went to the sellers with, as my grandmother would say, you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, right? And I would go and, really pursue them to break them down. And, the problem there is if you're a seller who has never had any value out of marketing, that's going to be a hard way to go. I tell a story in the book of I had joined a software company as a new marketing VP, and the CEO had chewed up and spit out, I think it was 4 marketing VPs in the previous 3 years. And so I had met the new CRO, and that was all good, but I hadn't met his lieutenants. So there were 4 VPs running different divisions, public sector, financial services, and so on. And I show up day one, in my new suit, and I'm all smiles, and I go into a room and to shake their hands, and they wouldn't even shake my hand. They were just so bitter, right? I mean, and they were like, why should I meet you? You're going to be gone just like everyone else was ever gone. And so, despite the fact, it was terribly rude. And story now,
immature,
but I
right?
blame them, right? I mean, I'm not advocating that behavior, but that's going to happen. So what happened in that particular case, and I can see some of your listeners running into this, the CEO hired me to work on a very specific new initiative where he really wanted to get the word out about the company, and he wanted PR and brand awareness and analyst relations to really get increased. And I said, great, I'll sign up for that. I'd love to do that. when I met these sellers, selling leaders, they had just gotten nothing from marketing that was helping them in the field, nothing to help them find new opportunities, nothing to help them advance those opportunities. And so after that experience of the non-handshaking and, I kind of got big sister on them and did a little, like, seriously, this is how you guys are going to behave. I went back to my CEO and I just said, I cannot do what you hired me to do. I got to spend 6 months and get these guys successful. I got to get them seeing that marketing can help them. We got to figure out what plans we can put in place that are going to really help them close deals. And so we put in a series of field events and a variety of other things. And yeah, we did a little brand awareness and so on too. But the focus really needed to be something else to get their trust. And so I think that my advice to your listeners is, you really got to go in with your own assessment and, listen to what your CEO wants you to do, but then really talk to sales and find out what kind of attention they're getting and not getting. And
or if you're in sales, talk to marketing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. I'm just used to being on the other side. Right. About what can you really do for me? And here are my problems. And I think for your sellers, I would say really think about what your problems are. Your problems are, everybody always wants top of funnel, but are you sure? Because if your close rate is, let's just say 1 in 5, putting more up is just going to distract you. Like, let's look at what's in your funnel. Are you closing that? What do your win rates look like? Do we know the competition well enough? Do we know all the right people in that account that can help accelerate the deal? So there might be mid-funnel type programs that we need to put in place. So right. I would say really open the kimono on what's going on in your pipeline.
Yeah, I think that's really a great suggestion because, too often sales just thinks of marketing relative to top of funnel, as you talk about. And they don't have that conversation about how they can help in mid-funnel. And to your point about close rates, I mean, yeah, we see in the SaaS business, I think, sort of abysmally low close rates in general across the sector. How can they improve that?
Yeah, for sure.
And so use all the tools that you're... Yeah. So part just starts with a conversation. And then as you talk about, you have your marketing meeting, there has to be some sort of process then that you engage with on a regular basis. To this point, you talked about the sales reps not now being able to find information in your own system. Right. And I think I saw the statistic that 70% of reps are still creating material that
for sure. And,
that exists.
We are taking this instrumentation and then going back to them. So we use our marketing meeting to say, hey guys, let's take a look at what y'all are using. And, once they see that data, and by the way, now we're at the point where we can triangulate quota attainment ladder, with win rate, with content used to really come up with a better formula for making our sellers more successful. So I'm super excited about that. We're not quite there, but, next quarter, I think we'll be able to do that.
And that'd be a great advance, really, to be able to have that data on hand, to be able to see that. I mean, especially if the sellers believed it and listened to it.
Yeah, and I think they do. It's credible. Yeah. I think it's credible.
So, all right. Well, the other thing I liked, and I was going to bring this up, sort of the last point, and I don't know if it was you or Andrea that came up with this new customer engagement model, sort of the figure 8 laying on its side.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Was that yours?
That actually came out of Forrester research. And we saw them starting to talk about that, kind of sideways 8 or ellipses way of looking at the funnel. And I think it's so much better, especially when you're in a subscription business like we talked about, whether it's lawnmowers or dental care or software. You find an account, you are engaging with that account, you close it, you grow it, and on and on and on. And it becomes this wonderful cycle. And it helps an awful lot to keep sales and marketing constantly thinking about the customer and all stages that customer is going through, especially when you're an account, a business like InsideView, where you might start in one department in a big company, and then you start expanding all around. You're constantly monitoring what that customer is doing. I think it's a very useful construct.
Yeah, I encourage people to obviously to read the book, and when they read the book, pay attention to this, because as I said, it's sort of a figure 8 laying on side, as you had an ellipses. And you identify 4 stages: find, engage, close, grow. And it really is that closed loop cycle that really defines what a customer is rather than a funnel. I really like that. I've been using that a lot recently.
Yeah, the thing that we're trying to figure out now is how do we report on, our named accounts that we're really going after in an account-based way. Mm-hmm. How do we map them to those stages in a way that is going to make sense to us and in a way that we can then take next action? And we haven't solved that quite yet. We have ideas about it, but I'd love to know if any of your listeners have ideas about how to do that. Because
all right.
I think it'll be impactful.
All right. Yeah. Well, we'll put that out there as a challenge for people to read the book. And yeah, I'm thinking about it too, because it's, like I said, I thought it was just a very insightful way to look at customer flow. And yeah, I hadn't thought about how you report it in a report, but I'll think about that.
Yeah, we all do, right? Because it's just those things, and the market's changing so fast.
All right. And so, Tracy, this is the last segment of the show. I've got standard questions I ask all my guests, and they always find this a lot of fun, or at least I do. So the first question is a hypothetical scenario. And in this scenario, this is going to test your sales skills, I guess.
Okay.
So in this scenario, you've just been hired as VP of sales by a company whose sales have stalled out. They desperately need a sales turnaround. So what 2 things could you do your first week on the job that could have the biggest impact?
I would get in the field and talk to customers right away, and presumably former customers, but a combination of whoever has stuck with us and then those that have gone elsewhere. I would do that for sure. And then I would talk to all my sellers, and customer success folks, anybody that was customer facing, to find out, what do you guys think is going on? Those would be the first 2 things. I would then take an outside view and go to industry analysts or, other luminaries in that particular industry to find out their opinion on the company. And, see what I could find out there, because there might be something that has gone astray. And then, next after that would be look at competition and product fit and things of that nature.
Okay. Great answer. So some rapid fire questions for you. So do you ever get taken out on sales calls?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're out on a sales call and you're selling, what's your most powerful sales attribute?
Listening and asking thought-provoking questions.
Okay. So who's your business role model?
My business role model probably would be a former boss of mine, a guy named Dave Kellogg, who is CEO of Host Analytics right now. And he's the one who beat into my head that marketing exists to make sales easier. But I really watched him engage with customers, and he was just asking question after question after question. And it would be after maybe, and there's that whole thing, ask why, right? So you get the stiff why, and then you get to the real question, and you have the real answer, and you really see that, and people start to relax, and then they really tell you.
Right. Excellent. No, I like that. One book you think every salesperson should read?
One book every salesperson.
Besides your own.
Wow, I have a lot of ideas for marketers. I think for sellers, I like the Challenger books, honestly.
Okay.
The Challenger Customer is the most recent one, but there's ones before that. But I also really like books that are not business books, that are more anthropological, like what makes people think kind of books.
Well, give me an example.
Malcolm Gladwell's books, specifically The Tipping Point was very impactful for me as a marketer, just thinking about how do ideas spread. And then Outliers, I think, is a wonderful one about really honing your craft and what does it take to hone your craft, that you're always learning, you're a lifelong learner. I just think that kind of thing is fascinating.
Okay. 2 good examples. All right. So last question for you. What music's on your playlist these days?
Oh my gosh. Well, over Thanksgiving, I did a lot of cooking, and my absolute favorite playlist on Pandora is the De La Soul playlist. And, so it's like little old school hip hop, a little bit of R&B built in. It gets a little angry sometimes, which is kind of what you want when you want to chop. And then, we switched to Frank Sinatra for dinner.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, good. Well, Tracy, thanks for joining me today, and tell people how they can find out more about Align to Achieve and InsideView and how they can connect with you.
Best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn, and on our website, InsideView.com. You can find out everything you want to know about the book and where to find it. It's published by Wiley, and you can buy through a number of channels. But on our website, we have a bunch of derivative content, infographics and blogs and other things. So you can check it out that way, as well as listening to podcasts like this. And we also did a webinar, Andrea and I together, when the book launched, that kind of takes you through what's in the book in like a half an hour.
Excellent. Good. Well, Tracy, thanks for joining me. And
thank you.
And friends, thanks for joining us again today. Remember, make it part of your day every day to deliberately learn something new to help accelerate your success. And an easy way to do that is to listen to this podcast. That way you won't miss any of my conversations with top business experts like my guest today, Tracy Eiler, who shared her expertise about how to accelerate the growth of your business. So thanks for joining me. Until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.